Hi, good day and good morning, everybody. Welcome to Investor Talk. We have Bo Møller Stensgaard here today. He is the president of Greenland Mines. Symbol is GRML. It trades on the NASDAQ. And we welcome him to the show today. And we're going to learn a lot more about Greenland Mines and specifically Greenland itself. Welcome, Bo.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Before we get started, I always kind of like to find out a little bit about the brains of the operation, the guys behind it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your history. Were you always mining, geology, the Nordic? That was always a passion and a dream right from the get-go, or did you fall into it, or give us a little bit of?
I don't think necessarily that I fall into it at all. Well, because it was actually sort of I'm a Dane, economic geologist of education. I sort of fall in love with the mineral resource and exploration and resource development from the very start of my sort of university career, right? And when you're sort of located in Denmark, we don't have that many sort of solid rocks to look at, right? So your attention sort of goes towards Greenland, where you have sort of an open textbook sort of laboratory, right, for geology. So my first season was in 1998, going to Greenland with the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland. They could probably not get rid of me, so I sticked around for the next 20 years with the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland. I did a Ph.D. On mineral resource assessments, crustal architecture, how to predict and assess where we have a potential and have sort of large volumes of mineralized rocks. So I did that. I kept on with the survey, right, and made my trip around entire Greenland. I think that I've nearly spent sort of going around on different expeditions in Greenland. I probably spent more than 9 months, 12 months in a tent, right? That is how we operate, or how we operated at the time with the survey. They still do. And made my way around. Part of that was also to sort of that I took the role of sort of supervising, guiding the mining companies, exploration companies coming to Greenland. I did that for more than 10, 12 years and so on. I ended up as a senior researcher, scientist. I was leading expeditions, going to various parts of Greenland, but have been all around. Then in 2000, and when was that? 17, I joined the European Research and Development Consortium called EIT Raw Materials, which is sort of put into the world for securing raw materials for the European Union. That was the early days, 10 years ago, right? And it was sort of the early days of discussing Critical Raw Materials Act. I was part of that, sort of the first sort of move towards that was discussed. But really, we had at that time 120 partners across entire Europe working with research and development, exploration, resource assessments, industry partners, academic partners, and so on. So I was advising on resources and exploration in Europe and beyond. Then I got a call from London, joined a junior exploration company. That sort of said, look, we know you for your time at GEOS, the Geological Survey. Why don't you come and join us and try the real private sort of sector in this way? And I did for 4.5 years, and ended up being CEO of that company. Left that company, was involved in sort of a couple of sort of smaller things here in Copenhagen, setting up an investment fund for mineral resource projects in Scandinavia, was involved in a tech developer on exploration data worldwide. And then, some months ago here, I got another call here saying, look, we have Skaergaard. Is that something that you could consider here? And I definitely could. Actually, the interesting thing here is that all the way from the early start at my career at the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland, I had actually my eyes sort of fixed in on Skaergaard because it is a truly geological wonder here, but it's also a sort of a unique opportunity for having the precious, the palladium, platinum, and critical metals here in the equation here. You don't see that many places where you have that. So that is my own career here. I can touch a bit more on the team. I'm very proud of the team that we have put together for this. All of them have great experience. The technical team have great experience with Greenland and developing resource projects there.
We're going to get to Skaergaard in a second too, but I'm glad you brought up Greenland again. For those of us that don't know much about it, apart from being in the headlines the last few months, give us a little bit of an idea what Greenland's like, and geography, topography, weather. How is that, and what brought you to specifically to Greenland?
Yeah. So when you're looking at Greenland, it's 50,000 population of 50,000, right? Mostly on the west coast, not that many on the east coast where we are located. Um, it's outcropping rock here, right? Skaergaard is unique also in the sense that you can actually walk the entire mineralization. You can see it on surface. You don't have that many situations around the world where you actually are able to sort of stand on the rock that is mineralized. But here I can do that, right? I can sample it at surface, study it at surface. So it is sort of from that perspective, sort of a great sort of a natural laboratory where you can actually see things, right? It's during the summer month. Here we have 4 months of summer, 5 months if you're sort of stretching it. But you have sort of good dry conditions here. It's actually an Arctic desert. It's not that there's not that much rain. There's not that much snow and so on. It's more Arctic desert-like.
Okay.
And the dry temperature actually also means, or the dry conditions actually also means that when you're stepping out of the airplane and so on, you'll be surprised how warm it actually is, only being sort of 5 degrees or 10 degrees and something like that, because it actually feels lots warmer, right? Because
That's
of
why I
the,
wanted you to, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think a lot of us just think of Greenland as this, frozen permafrost tundra, but it's not. That's interesting to know. Tell us about Scaragard. That's the jewel, a crown jewel. Tell us all about that. It's been around for a while. I think 81 years ago was originally the first drilling done on it. But tell us all about that and present day Scaragard for you.
yeah. Yeah, no, but it has been around for some years here, right? It was discovered back in 1935, right? And over the last sort of 30 years have been sort of through different sort of development, commercial developments. All of them sort of expanding the resource here. All of them sort of first it was a gold project, then it was a palladium project, then it was a gold palladium project. What is interesting is that all of them also are noting that hey, it has actually sort of the iron, the vanadium, the gallium, the titanium. All of them are noting it, right? But it's not really being put into the equation. There are some attempts on it. There are some laboratory test work on the processing that shows that it's durable here, but it's not really rolled into the equation here. That is changing now. It's resonating much more, sort of bringing it into the equation. Investors now knows about critical raw materials. There's an understanding for why we need to bring in more vanadium, bringing in more gallium, and so on, right? So it resonates here. And then, as I also the other thing that really have changed the story here is that we do look this as a large tonnage open pit scenario here, right? We don't have to start out by going underground, which many of the projects before, or all of them actually, have been looking at that sort of underground scenario here, right? And by that, we are lowering the cost here and put in sort of new processing methods that have been developed over the last 10, 15 years and so on that haven't really been put into the equation before. Together with also sort of a potential for geothermal cheap energy from Iceland in Iceland, well, then you started sort of having things moving in the right directions here, tailwinds and the gold, of course, also, right?
And tell us about Iceland. Let's talk about, or Greenland rather, local government, labor, uh, uh, good jurisdiction, all the above boxes get checked for you guys?
Yeah, no, but all those boxes are checked, right? And then slowly Greenland is sort of moving. Remember that mining actually have happened in Greenland, right? There was a lead mine just sort of up at Mestersvig, 600 kilometers north of us. Everything was underground at that time and so on, running underground. They had processing facilities underground and so on. So that was 600 kilometers north of us, right? And mining have been happening around Greenland. Then there's a period here where you only have sort of had gold, and then you have had on the north side, you have had a ruby mine and so on, sort of smaller niche productions here, right? But it's sort of slowly again sort of emerging from a former miner jurisdiction to now sort of re-emerging as a new mining jurisdiction here. And there's all parties in Greenland have the resources as an economic pillar in the development of Greenland and even more sort of self-independence. So it's on all parties' programs here to support that, right? And you do have a lot of sort of local support for bringing in this, right? Jobs creation and but also really sort of being part of a modern world here and moving that. Having said that, I have the deepest respect for the Inuits and the local culture here and the way of sort of dealing with nature and environment here and so on. You have to respect that up there. And look, having that sort of all coming together, I think it's a good mix here.
Terrific. And one thing you brought up, we talked about the weather conditions and the weather. Your season is short, is probably early summer into what we would call fall here. But you had a release a week or two ago about getting an icebreaker, the Angus
Yeah.
MV, I believe it's called.
Yes.
That to me is game changing. What does it do for you? How's it going to help? And in terms of getting in and out of the area, I know there's a gravel landing strip, but can that also be used as a helicopter, as a landing part as well? And how is that going to factor in and help Greenland mines?
Yeah, we have to sort of when doing the exercise that we're doing now, we have to sort of not moving in and using 2 weeks of constructing a camp, and then you have the drillers coming in and so on. You want to make the most out of the boots on ground, looking at the rocks, making the most out of the time. So that is where the in this case the icebreaker, which also gives us sort of very safe sort of operation for our base camp here. It's not that you have to break through ice or anything, but it's
Okay.
simply just a safety, right? But that has a heli platform on board, right? You can fly directly from the helicopter to shore here. You can deliver the drillers in the morning and so on, getting them back in the after or the crew shift here with the helicopter directly to the boat. We can actually, and that is previously we there has been exploration camps at the gravel field, the gravel airstrip at Sødalen that we can easily sort of say. And what we probably will do this summer is also that we will establish a small satellite camp at Sødalen, which also enable us all year round to actually come into the area and use that small satellite camp here for smaller operations. Monitoring different things, inspections, and so on. So we will actually sort of have that putting into the equation also, right? But
So
no, having the Argus on board here is a great setup. There's only one of this kind of operational platforms. We secured it, and I'm very happy about that.
how long do you have it for, Bo? Is it like a yearly thing or is it a 3 year, 5 year deal? How does it work?
No, we do have it sort of for the summer period here. Then it's let off. It actually just arrived from doing work down at Antarctica, so it's made its way back now, and then we have it for the summer period, and probably let's see as we are moving on here, you'll probably also see us securing it for the years to come, right?
Excellent. You guys did a raise last year. You raised money with some debt retired. Well, sticking with the green theme in Greenland, it's going to cost some green to get this thing up and running. What is the plan for that? How do you do that? And can you get like government grants, government loans? We know private money obviously is going to be involved. How's the government of the country in terms of helping and maybe kickstarting? Because it's going to cost some money.
Well, of course, it does, right? As all development does, right?
Sure.
But we are also a great sort of value proposition from where we are market cap wise compared to sort of some of our peers. But definitely, there's a much more sort of both from the US and from the European side. There is much more focus on supporting these kind of projects, strategic projects here, and especially a project like this where you sort of have several value streams, you have several sort of industrial value streams that we can tap into or ecosystems, and that creates some possibilities for being attractive to many industries here, right?
Mhm.
On top of that with the gold, right? um So definitely from the US and from the European side, you see that. Actually, from the Danish side, you have also sort of seen over the or Danish Greenlandic side, you have also seen investment coming in. I would not be surprised if you see more of that sort of coming, right? Also, then on top of this, I would also sort of highlight that we are looking at a place here that is in a geostrategic sort of location, right? We are in the North Atlantic region. We are just on the end of sort of this gap between Iceland and Greenland, right? So we are sort of in a geostrategic sort of placement, which should be interesting also for sort of infrastructure development, right? Um, so I think that there's a lot of sort of again tailwind on the financing here moving forward and so on. It's not a you can't make this for zero, right? You need to have investments here, but again, we are starting in the mid 30s here, and compared to other peers and so on, then there's a huge sort of potential in front of us here.
The Nordic Exploration Awards are presented to recognize and honor outstanding achievements, accomplishments, and service to the Nordic exploration industry. In 2022, our guest was the recipient and winner of that award, the 11th running, as it were. How was that? How'd that feel? And what a wonderful accomplishment.
Thank you, thank you. No, I'm very proud of being awarded that, right? It is one. It's a reward that are being put between the Scandinavian countries and Greenland. I was very happy about that. I'm proud of it, right? But at the same time, it's also sort of you're standing on the shoulders of giants here in Greenland, right? People that have been all around. A lot of good scientists that have used Greenland as a natural laboratory here, right? So I also, at the same time, sort of feel humble about it. There's a lot of people behind that have spent years and years and years on what I'm also and what the community is benefiting from now, right?
Well, there's a lot of people, I think, young geologists and mining people out there that would think that they're standing on the shoulder of giants like Bo Møller Stensgaard. So
Thanks.
we thank you for joining us today. Very informative. We learned a lot about Greenland. We learned a lot about Greenland mines. And if anybody has any other questions or interest in it, just click the link below and you'll get all the information you need. Thanks again, Bo. Pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Excellent.